Hey everyone, here's Joy
Hi.
in her Christmas colours.
And my afro hairdo.
Happy holidays, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas, whatever. You know.
Happy Christmas, and God bless you all.
So, bit of pain in the right hip, so you did something at yoga the other night.
Oh, it's come better off and on since then. But I couldn't do any of the standing up things last night because it was too sore. But Emma didn't make us stand up at all. She's a darling. And we did virtually none with
So that pain just caught before, did it?
It did when it wasn't bad when I got here. Now I can't tell you why it happens. There's obviously a movement that I do that sets it off, but at this stage
Don't know what it is.
no.
Okay. And it's not always walking, is it? It can be doing anything.
Sometimes when you go doing some sort of a warrior at yoga,
Yep.
I've stopped trying to do yoga warriors. It's okay if I point both feet in the front, but if you do your hip or your foot pointed in a different direction, it's one of them, but I don't know which one it is, and I'm not going to sit at home and practice them all till I make it bad.
Yeah, right.
I need a time and management guy from the army, I think, sitting there telling me what I'm doing wrong. I couldn't, when I kept buggering up I thought the computer was buggered, but one of those people from the army who joined our writers group, this poor bugger's got cancer, seen him for, anyway, he watched me using my computer, and all of a sudden he said, I know what's wrong with it, this is what you need to do, but I can't do it, you have to get your computer technician, so Michael Chambers did it.
Cool. How many people in the writing group?
Presently there's about 9.
Okay.
And it's varied from about, if we have a special speaker or something, and you might get 20, you might get more. But basically it's the 8 or 9 of us that have written the stories, and our third anthology is ready to be printed now.
Nice.
It'd be better if I gave them a picture, but I don't even know where my sign said, surely you've got a photo. I said, yeah, I've got a photo. Should have a photo of Tim Rookham Hall.
Have you seen that T-shirt, that show, Drunk History? It's on Channel 10.
No.
It's Australian comedians who get drunk, and then they tell a story about some bit of history in Australia. And then they have actors who are also comedians acting out exactly what the comedians have been telling. So I don't know exactly how they... Anyway, story.
I wouldn't think it'd be hard. I would think they'd just go and get onto Anastasia Palaszczuk and that Janet Young site, and they'd be able to tell all sorts of stuff that
Make
couldn't
up all
happen.
sorts of things.
Yeah, obviously stuff they come out with couldn't possibly be true. You know, 52,000
No
people.
politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, be nice if everyone manages to, at least here in Australia, we can get together for Christmas, families.
Can't do anywhere else.
Oh, well, you know, around the world, lots of places are shut down again, locked down again.
Well, even in Singapore, I think they're still limited in what you can have inside.
Yeah,
So maybe the unit's a bit small to have more than half a dozen in there anyway.
well, I think that's beside the point on a family holiday. You know, you'd make 20 people fit
Yes.
if it was a festive holiday, wouldn't you?
Mm.
You know, you'd just do what you needed to do.
God, do you remember with the night Margie got married, I think 10 people slept in that bedroom, including her and the groom, because he was too drunk to drive home to the motel they booked.
Exactly. You make things work.
There was
One of my clients this morning was saying how she's looking forward to just having her cave to go to, in 10 years' time. And
I can't think of anything worse than living in a cave. I'd probably get the cranky bear.
well, I think she's thinking, more like man cave. Where can you go and escape the world, the universe, if things fall apart any further than what they are.
I'm not planning to do that. I'm just hoping that they don't put me down. I've never wanted to escape to the country. I escaped from the country. I mean, even if you went to Wyandra, say, with its 40 people and you liked them all, just walking from one place to the next is as hot as buggery.
Do you remember me telling you I went to when I used to be on the radio with Walter, just before, so from 8 to 9 o'clock was a group of UFO, and I think it was like a conspiracy theory hour. Right. So it was people who loved UFOs, people who loved, there were psychics, and so it was a really weird combination of people, and one of them was from the Skeptic Society or something, so he was skeptical of everything. So these guys would get together and they'd have this hour and they'd chat about all sorts of weird stuff. Anyway, so one night...
That'd be an interesting debate.
It was an interesting debate. So one night, for whatever reason, we got wrangled into, with our friends who wanted to go along actually, and I said, hey, they're the guys from 4BC, we should go along. So we went along to a UFO night.
How many did you see?
No, it wasn't about seeing UFOs. It was a guy who was so boring, the poor darling. He was not a public speaker. And he was up the front and he's telling all these stories about UFOs and how they're on the moon and how the moon, anyway, he had all these stories. But what he said was that when there was going to be an alien invasion, the only area of the world that was going to be safe was Cunnamulla. Mum was born in Cunnamulla, so that was really freaking hilarious. So, and it's out whoop whoop. And anyway, it's out whoop whoop. And so anyway, I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm going to end up in Cunnamulla once the aliens come to the Earth. That'd be right. Yeah, funny. So that, okay, aliens and Cunnamulla are in the same conspiracy theory. Who'd have thought it?
That wouldn't have been the people in Cunnamulla. They wouldn't have been going to Cunnamulla because the people in Cunnamulla wouldn't have believed it. So they'd have just not seen it because they wouldn't believe it. We're pretty laid back mob in Cunnamulla, We might have emus walking down the main street, but we wouldn't have. I'm sure they wouldn't have UFOs.
Well, one of the stories in the drunk history was in 1932, and it was about emus over in Western Australia. So there was like an emu war or something. So
that actually happened.
Well, these are all true stories. That's the funny thing about it. But then these people get drunk and they tell the stories.
That was absolutely disgraceful, but it did happen.
Well, I'm not sure which bit of it was disgraceful.
Killing emus for nothing. Anyway.
Obviously, that's not the way they put it across in the drunk history of Australia. It was told in a slightly different way. And of course, even the emus were human beings dressed up like emus. So the whole thing's just funny. It's funny.
I reckon that it's possibly because it may be the way teachers told us stuff that they thought we'd be interested in or that we'd relate to, or correspondence. But I talk to other people my age, or else I have an excellent memory that I never knew about. Because I knew all of this stuff about the South Sea Islanders being virtual slaves, brought to Australia. We had an anti-slave policy, so they made them all sign a document with their thumb, and of course the poor bastards couldn't speak the lingo and definitely couldn't read the language. And then they sent them back after 4 years, and they didn't take any notice of which island they took which person from. They went and shoved them back on an island.
Didn't something similar happen with the Chinese settlers who came over? They were just sent back to Shanghai or somewhere. They might have come from anywhere.
Well, most of them were picked up from Shanghai or Amoy, which is a seaport, I gather, near Shanghai. But Shanghai's got more people than Australia, so it's probably pretty big. But yes, but they mostly, wherever they came from, they were nearly all brought from Shanghai, so they did go back to Shanghai.
Mm.
But a lot of, well, and I think that because it was the main port, even the ones who came out for the gold digging most of the Chinese actually wanted to come here for the gold. There was one that were brought out to be sheep shearers that were conned somehow. Though even they're not sure if the Chinese were conned quite as much, because they think that they might have well thought, well, if we go over there and with a contractor, the Chinese have always had writing, and so they probably had somebody who may or may not have written it. And someone was telling us about when one of the Chinese shepherds married an Australian woman. At the wedding, the only person who could actually sign his name was a Chinese person. None of the Australians did. So some of the people who were brought out as shepherds may well have, if there was some of them definitely came out, including my grandfather, when there was a famine. And so even if Australia was bad, if they were going to be on a sheep station and get some food, and you're in China and getting none.
Yeah, right.
So some of them came out, or this is what the grandfather's history when somebody did it says. They actually came out because they thought it couldn't be worse than China, as China was at that stage.
Mm.
It's wonders Australia ever survived at all. Virtually all of the people that came out here were like 100 men to one woman in the convicts. And the Chinese were virtually only men. The Canadians who came out for the gold rushes were also mostly men, so there was no, there wasn't much to breed with.
Yeah, right.
It was a terrible, and then we wonder why it was such a male-oriented society. I mean, so women were either regarded as whores, or whatever the going word for them in those days were.
Harlot.
Might have even been made full of harlots. Ladies of the night, possibly. I'm sure, whatever. But a lot of the people who were sent out here weren't sent out for being harlots. They were probably reasonably...
So they didn't bring their family? Or the family would come out years later, or there just was no family?
Well,
fascinating.
It depends.
So did the men die out? Because we don't have 100 to 1 ratio of men to women now.
They possibly went back and found themselves a wife and came back, or conned some woman into coming out. But and the free settlers like the Stapletons often did bring their wives, like our Stapleton grandpa, but when she died in childbirth in Sydney Harbour with her son, so that man remarried somebody else, don't know. So the person who remarried is our grandmother, not the one that came with him. But Tyson, Donnelly and Shield, that would be your father's mob.
Yep.
The Shield woman, the Tyson woman got done for stealing, and her husband was in the army, so we may have stayed in the army, but he came out as a hired servant to one of the rich people, so he worked his passage over as a rich person's servant all the way to Australia. And as soon as he got here, he was then a free settler, and all free settlers were entitled to a convict, so he took his wife, who was a convict, as his person. And then they had another dozen. They left one kid behind, I presume, with a relation. We never found out what happened to her. But the wife and her husband came out here, and then they had a dozen people, including Jimmy Tyson, who was the first Australia-made millionaire. All the other earlier millionaires had been rich to begin with, but they were obviously so poor that one was a convict and the other one had to work his way over as a rich person's servant. And Jimmy Tyson, one of their kids, was the first known millionaire, was the first home-born millionaire, that's what he was, born in Australia. And his family is Mr. Jim Shield, your grandfather, who you thought the bloody sunshine out of.
Why wouldn't you?
You can't even remember probably, but you...
I have a visual. In bed dying, but you know, I have a visual.
The last time you saw him alive, you had a cold, and he wouldn't let you go and give him a hug because...
Hello! 2020, how evil has this year been? Anyway, whatever.
But you screamed and howled and cried because you wanted to go to Granddad.
Hold out.
Anyway, he was dead the next day, I think, or the day after, without you giving him any
Well, Carmel
chance.
was trying to keep Sterling and Teddy apart the last few days.
Like I said, he had the snotty nose. Well,
Didn't work, but you know.
he didn't. Whatever it was merely a snotty nose because they both passed their test today. And
Test messed.
so,
Good.
Lyle will be home any minute, and John must be at work. And John will be home.
Should ask you, yoga chickie babe, what you can do to strengthen your base chakra, because everything about the pain in this hip messes with your adrenals, your cortisol, so your stress hormones and pain hormones.
Well, you'll have to write that down on a bit of paper. My
Because
base.
she might have, so she might have just something you can do to help to strengthen your base chakra.
I'll ask Cynthia. I won't see Cynthia till next year. Yvette will
Because
be the only-
everything I do here just blows it, you know, and it's
Okay.
base over and over and over again.
Well, Yvette probably knows least about it because she was a groove teacher until... Giselle might know. She's still in Bow Desert. I owe her a phone call and we're going to get together for coffee before Christmas.
Perfect. But yes, I'll write it down.
Base chakra.
She
What
might
colour
just
was
have
that?
some orange, red. It's one of the, it's down the bottom. So it starts with deep. Oh, hello. Red. It's on the wall.
Oh, the bottom
So
one.
yeah, so red is the root chakra,
Fan.
orange
Right.
is the
That's the ankles.
behave.
Well, I'm looking at the picture. It's the ankles for the red one.
No, it's not the ankles. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That one's the base chakra, which is that one. That's what we're after. It's a
Right, okay. Even though it's in the goddess
Rudy.
prize. Oh. That says the orange one is in the...
No, it's
Yeah.
your red.
Yeah, okay.
Because there's another one underneath the feet, which is the 8th chakra.
Ah,
And it's why we need sunshine and fresh air, and it even happens through concrete. We just need to be outdoors. We need to be in the, we need fresh air. We need life.
I was amazed. I'd been whinging because everybody else had poinsettia trees. And when they had hang the clothes the other day and here's bloody poinsettia, not poinsettia, poinsettia, flowers on the ground. And I looked up
Are they
and
the
yep.
red ones?
And we've always, it only started flowering a year or two ago because when Josh was about 4 and Doug got the new big pair of flowers, Josh cut it off about this far from the base. We've always been surprised that it actually grew. I love my trees and I love all my flowers, and Mrs. Shield gave me that one, Bondi Youngman gave me that one. This one is one of Honora Cody's from when I first came here, one of its grandchildren.
That's how I feel with my little decorations on the Christmas tree. That reminds me of Ireland, that of Mexico, that of Peru.
Which is lovely.
And As Murray said, and one day you'll forget where you've been, so it'll be really nice to have a reminder of where I've been. So what party have you got on tonight?
That is at Bulletin. And on Friday night I've got the gym.
Yeah, right.
I can take Doug tonight, though I don't think I can take him on Friday night.
I don't think he's up for a workout.
We're having it at the tennis club and you have to take your own wine with the nibblies are supplied.
Bottle of Moscato.
But I thought I might take him as my driver.
Good plan.
Oh, I thought you were sprinkling me with holy water. I thought I'd freaking died. My friend Peter Shield in England showed us the coffin, the do-it-yourself coffin, so you can have it in your shelf as a bookcase in all different pieces. And then when you die, you just take all the books off them.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I thought of you and then thought, well, you've already got yours sorted.
Oh, I didn't ever buy it to use as a coffin straight off. I always intended it to be either for the wine or books. But then they put all this lining in it, not lead, thank God, but you know, all this lining so that none of your fluids would leak through the bottom of it or something. And I thought, oh, that's difficult to put books in there.
Well, that works for wine, doesn't it?
So that when I finally get in there, I'll have a good smell of wine.
Mm-hmm.
If I hadn't got sick, though, it might well have ended up on top of a couple of cupboards
Oh yeah.
as a long bookshelf that way,
Oh yeah.
or some sort of container that way. And it didn't have all those bloody pieces of silver and shit all over it when I bought it. It was just a plain coffin, which was ideal for just doing it. Then they said it also included a $400 package. So I gathered all the little fancy bits. And it didn't have any handles on it. I'll have to take the handles off so you can use it for anything other than the intended purpose. You know, we don't like carrying people. They, you know, if we got drunk, so we drunk, I'll put them in the coffin and take them out in the backyard. People might talk about us.
Call us coffin trash.
That'd be it. When Wendy Lohman said something about what happened to the books, and I put on there, why, the new coffin's got lights in and mine hasn't. I reckon if you kids all have these little shelves from IKEA that are actually your coffins, and if I live longer than you and I've suddenly got to make your IKEA coffins, it'll be a bit difficult. I'm not very good at Allen keys and things. You should have seen Carmel. Carmel, were you there when Carmel made the fans?
No. I hate doing stuff like that. It's not within my range of skills.
Or it must, in that case, it must have been Joy or somebody. It must have been Joy. No, I'm sure it wasn't Doug, but they ended up with a few extra screws, nuts and bolts or something.
That's a worry.
Whew. So I've got a chakra and some, okay, you tell me about lymphatic drainage in my top half. How do you do lymphatic drainages in your bottom half? You have to book in for one, but you don't do them.
Yeah, I can.
I have no idea if it'll do any good. I was asking. I've never had one.
Yeah, right. We can book that next time.
Okay.
Because to do a good lymphatic drainage, you need to start face up and then face down and then face up again.
Mm-hmm.
So you sort of stimulate all the major areas, which I sort of do with the kinesi anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do skin brushing?
The only person I knew that did skin brushing was that Judy Hillier.
Okay.
You sold her a brush or made her get one or something 1,000 years ago. I mean, a really, really long time ago.
Mm.
Well, mightn't have been you, maybe, because she's always done.
Lots of healthy things.
Yes. One of them was dry skin brushing. So I saw her doing it.
Yeah, so the lymph is just in underneath the skin. So when you do it, you sort of do everything back towards the heart. Is the aim.
Sometimes I do it like this with my hands.
Yeah, and it's best on dry skin, not wet skin, so you do it before a shower.
If I do it with my hands, if I'm sitting in the lounge room and remember
It's not as good, but it's not going to hurt. Yeah, it moves stuff. Absolutely.
Okay. Right, well, I
Yeah.
can do that. And I'll have a look. I've got 1,000 brushes. I'm sure there'll be one that'll be soft enough for your skin.
You don't want a synthetic one. So if it's plastic, because sometimes they're soft because they're plastic. So it needs to be a
You
natural
mean I need
bristle.
one of the ones like this that in godforsaken moments someone, one in a raffle or something to put rouge on my face? And I thought, yeah, right.
Yeah, no,
hell freezes
you want a
up.
big one.
Well, I know that Carmel's back brush or whatever back brush is hanging in my in my bathroom is, but I think it might be a bit tough. Anyway, I'll check. I know I've got 100 brushes.
Cool.
And why are those synthetic ones no good?
Does something to the pores. I don't know what, but it messes with your pores.
Oh.
So the natural ones open your pores. So then when you have a shower, it allows the toxins out.
Oh. So that's why I get so many sebaceous cysts, because I can't get out of the normal manner because my pores are shut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So dry skin brushing is great for that.
Did you see my post? I've got 2 nasties on my face. This one here, I had during the election of when I beat Ron Nunn, 2004 that would have been.
Right.
And I noticed that I had it in the election photos for when I stood for Logan and missed. So when I stood for photos at council against Ron Nunn, I was using the same things. Then I noticed in my campaign photos that all of them had a little thing on my nose.
Yeah, right.
I noticed in the mirror that I still had it, and this was like 6 months or 2 months or a couple of months later. So I went to the doctor and said, look, here's my photos from taken on this day. Here's me now. She sent me to a plastic surgeon.
Yeah, right.
He did 18 stitches, and he must have done it after the Madonna council election. Well, obviously it was. And because I know after I'd had the 18 stitches in my face and Doug was driving me home, I insisted we go over Beachmont. He said, why do you want to go there? Wouldn't you want to get home fast because it's sore? I said, listen, I've got to deliver these core flutes to so-and-so on Beachmont for so-and-so, so-and-so. We're in the coast now. This is going to be the easiest day we've got to deliver them to these people to put their core flutes. We probably did Canungra as well, but came over Beachmont.
Yeah, right.
And, so I thought, yep, I must have been dead. Anyway, I won the election, so clearly it was all worth it. I was the best looking candidate, without doubt. I told my when I was at Tambourine Mount, I said, I'd love to tell you Ron Mum punched me in the nose. This is why I've got this, but that's not true. I said, he's been perfectly okay. I said, this is from skin cancer. He was really cross about it. He didn't think it was a joke. But I mean, I didn't say he did it. It was a joke all the time, I thought. Oh, he must be steamed up about it.
Maybe you thought you'd been reading his private emails.
I met somebody one day and he said, oh, you're the little doll Michael Fraser's been sticking pins in the door for. I thought, oh, right. I hadn't thought of that. The idea of Michael Fraser having a voodoo doll of me sticking pins in it quite made me laugh. I can't imagine whatever Michael Fraser might do. I just cannot imagine him doing that.
On your behalf or to you?
Oh, I stood against him and beat him in as mayor.
Yeah.
So I suppose it'd be
Against you?
Yeah.
Again, ya?
Yeah. I think Garth Carey's back in town. Apparently he owns the Annalee Motel.
Yeah, right. How long since you've seen him?
I haven't seen him yet. Someone told me he had it. Probably not since he lost the election. We might have both lost it together, I think. Anyway, there's a picture of, and I didn't even think about it anymore. I don't know if he's even back. He must be back in town, but Trish is running the motel, not him. I don't know what he's doing. But their daughter was Melissa, and there was a big picture of Melissa Carey with one of the things in bad cap, and I thought, oh, shit.
He's back?
Well, he only had one kid, and she was called Melissa. And I met Mel. I'm sure she was called Mel and not Melissa when I met her. And I don't know if anyone even bothered to tell me her other name, but last time I saw her, she was still a kid in the pony club.
People grow up, it sucks, doesn't it?
Well, they do. I think when he was living in Bethesda, Trish used to work in the dry cleaners. I forget what her speciality was, if it was doing the ironing of things that had to be specially cleaned or wasn't mending. But she was doing some specialist job in the dry cleaners.
Mm. Yeah, so there's lots of lymphatic congestion down through here that won't be allowing the area to heal in the hip properly.
Ah, right.
And probably your diet's gone out the window a bit.
Oh, sometimes you have a look at dinner and you think, oh God, I think I'll just have some cheese with jam on it. You have a look at things that are perfectly lovely today. That the next day you think,
Did the chemo change your taste buds?
I don't know if it changed my taste buds or if it changed my... I certainly, after Jimmy's party, would never eat gluten again.
Yeah.
But usually if you
Probably
didn't...
just as well.
Usually if you didn't eat it for 3 months and then you had a time when you had it, basically might have made your father belch a bit, but it wasn't painful.
Mm.
But that made me quite ill.
Yeah, so the gut's obviously still really, really raw
Mm.
or toxic, you know.
Yes.
Such big stuff, you know, chemo and radiation.
Oh, God, I really don't think they have any idea why I'm in so much pain. Though they did tell me that might be something that'd be with me forever, which is fine, but if I know it, if you keep getting a bit of...
Because gluten and dairy are both really hard to digest. So I know you don't do badly on dairy, but when you add gluten in, because they're two of the most hardest to
Yes,
digest
and I
foods.
didn't realise that until Silvio Ponni, when I was doing the catering for Badcap, when they did one sculpture symposium, he was gluten free. And then the next time he did it, he was also milk free, lactose. And someone said that a lot of people end up finding one disagreeable and then the other one, because nearly all of the, say there's 15 bits of yucca or diddlo, you know, iron and calcium and whatever else they might have in them.
Yeah.
There's nearly all of them the same stuff in both. Or say there's 17 chemicals in each, maybe 15 are the same in both, or something like that. And they were probably talking about vitamins or DNA or something else, but whatever it was, the components covers
Well done.
everything.
That's pretty good. Well done. Yeah, and I think one of the things is that radiation and chemo and any drugs and painkillers are the same. They can destroy the villi in your gut. So, you know, we've got all those little like seed enemies in there.
I spent a lot of years working in the gut flora.
Yeah, so as they get destroyed by painkillers and toxins, you're releasing less enzymes because it's through the villi that we release enzymes.
How do we grow your villi back?
There's a specific strain of probiotic called LGG. So so probiotic.
Okay. I've still got some of them because I keep forgetting to take enough. But I'll keep using them until I've got enough.
Well, if you forget, then every time you go to the fridge, take 2 instead of 1.
Okay, right.
You know, so if you remember 3 times a week, at least if you get 2 at a time, you'll be aiming at about the right amount per week. Because generally it should be 2 a day, but hey, if you average 1 a day, that's fine. Or if you're having a really painful day, you could even take 3. Because if it's irritated, it will be destroying your villi and it will be destroying your ability to make enzymes. And it's enzymes that break down your food. So when you don't have enough villi, you can't break down your food. You end up with more intolerances.
Till I worked in the what's stuff when you eat sheep's guts? Cattle guts.
Do you mean haggis or something?
No. Tripe.
Okay. Don't they use sheep's guts for haggis?
Yes.
Thank
but
you.
I don't think it's tripe.
Okay.
And they didn't do, after the first year, I don't think we did sheep at the meatworks when I was there.
Okay.
I did spend a lot of time doing mutton, and I also watched Dad kill enough sheep in my life.
What's mutton?
Sheep.
Old man sheep.
You never eat rams, for Christ's
okay.
sake. Wethers or ewes.
Okay.
And when I said mutton, it could have been lamb. Mutton covers the whole bloody lot of it as far as I know. I've got a recipe for haggis if you want to know it.
I know I can buy it 10 minutes away.
What?
Haggis.
Buy a haggis?
There's a British fish and chips shop close by. They've got all sorts of fun stuff in there.
I've got the recipe. I thought it'd be much more fun for you to make one.
Yeah, not likely. I don't think so.
Were you doing something magic then?
Yep. Some kidney points.
Oh. I've been absolutely staggered at the amount of things, not only the stuff you do, but also virology,
Iridology.
that, and the reflexology. Reflexology, I remember you looking at me when you first started doing iridology and telling me stuff, and I said, yeah. Must have been that all of my molars were pulled out.
Okay.
Or 4 of them. And you had no idea, and I think, well, why would you know? Why would you care? It wasn't anything that you can't see them. They're right at the back, and I must have had jaws. I don't know if they just wouldn't fit, but they were terrible, terrible pain, and they took them out anyway. It must have been terrible pain if I consented to it. They might have gone bad, who knows? But I also remember going to a reflexologist. I forget what they said. And they said, why didn't, and I nearly screamed or yelled and nearly passed that. And they said, that means such and such. And I said, yes. ask? I said, you didn't bloody ask. I didn't know anything about reflexology. If they don't ask questions, you... And then another time had a reflexology session at markets. I ended up lying on the ground because whatever they did, they got the point that was bad, but the pain was so dreadful in my foot, I really nearly passed out. Obviously some sorts of pain nearly knocked me for six. But my blood pressure and everything, anyway, they told me that all of that shit was like a 16-year-old's yesterday, and I thought, yeah, I'll be able to dance around and do the rock around the clock a day like I could when I was 16. And probably until I was 66. The last 10 years has taken its toll. Of course, Doug refuses to twist too. How bloody fun.
You're off to a dancer, Savi?
No, we're going to the Bow Desert Bullet and staff party.
Oh, that's right.
I think it's 5 to 7.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to show you your playlist one day.
I have a playlist. Where?
On YouTube.
That?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you'll have to show you when you put YouTube on my phone. You'll be able to show me.
Yeah.
I presume they go on phones.
Yes, you can.
Probably better on the computer because it has more face value or
Gigabytes.
capacity or something.
Okay.
Most of the time, even when I'm lying on my tummy things, it doesn't hurt. But you touching it, and obviously you don't even have to touch it much. Then I know I'm alive by the living Harry.
Well, yeah, so I think I said last time this little area down in here, it's the cisterna chyli, so when that gets tender, and I was barely touching that, but when that gets tender, it's about the whole lymphatics of the stomach or the intestines being toxic, being inflamed. Yeah, fun.
What does the super juice that they inject you with so that they can have a look at your bones and all that sort of shit, or your lymphatic drainage of your tits, what's that do to you? What is it?
Oh, is that like the barium stuff? The barium meal?
Oh, that
They use different things.
That. This is something that they inject into you, and I had 4 lots of it. I mean, it could have been different.
Well, they reckon they're out of the body in 24 to 48 hours. So that's the good news that they believe that. With I've certainly found that isn't necessarily the case.
How long does it take to get rid of anaesthetic?
Oh, totally depends. If it goes into the deeper tissues in your body, it can stay there forever. And because it binds with your B12, it can make you B12 deficient for the rest of your life. So basically give you a form of anemia.
Am I anemic? I look healthy.
Yeah, but you're also exhausted at the drop of a hat.
Ah.
So, some B12 iron wouldn't be a bad idea for you.
I've probably got some. I'll have to have a look and tell you what I'm...
Yeah.
If I gave you an order...
Yeah.
And said, could I pick this up on Christmas Day, would that be satisfactory?
Of course.
That's, of course, if I get energetic enough to find it. I'm going to find all my bills first and get them paid. Though I think I've just about got everybody caught up with the credit card. I haven't got Carmel's licence yet. She's still got a bit of paper like mine came. I now have a proper licence.
Nice.
I don't think it is. They got a white background and shoved someone with a white hair next to it and then took photos, and I looked like someone that's had my head cut off and just finished about here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, they crack.
Yeah, they don't make much of an effort, do they?
I don't think they're allowed to. You're not allowed to. You're allowed to wear earrings, but you're not allowed to smile or wear glasses.
Yeah, I look like a criminal in my licence.
I look like some ditzy thing that probably wouldn't know probably, I look like an escape from asylum or an old people's home.
I'll check your centre of gravity.
Mind you, after the
Oh.
American people that got so cranky with
Oh.
Doug, oh, what do you mean old? Where was I supposed to keep the bus?
It wasn't working.
Right, well, they weren't going anywhere. But after the person that was getting so cranky with Doug because he wouldn't put all his fingers out, and I was so buggered, and they'd got us up at Sparrow Fart and then made us stand up for 4 or 5 or 6 hours, and this was about then. I said, walked over, left all the stuff, what's the problem? And they said, tell him he's got to put all his fingers out. So I looked over the thing and I said, he has. They said, no, he's got to put all his fingers out. And I said, that's all he's frigging got. I thought, if you're x-raying people, surely you can tell if those two have been cut off. Wouldn't you think?
You'd think so.
Anyway,
Some people are just box tickers and they don't know how
well,
to.
this man was clearly, I would have thought. Anyway, he actually had to come out of his little box and come round and have a look at Doug's hand out of the thing on both sides to make sure that he judged it. I didn't think they'd come out in case we shot him or whatever they think you're going to do to them.
Funny. Make them work, I reckon. People are going to have stupid rules.
But I still can't believe that I mean, if you x-ray people and they're doing that,
Yeah,
I'm
I
sure
hear
there
ya.
must be some spare bones in your hand.
I know. Did he ever have the phantom pain thing, that some people get with bits that are chopped off?
I believe so, but he doesn't tell you about it. Doug doesn't tell you a lot. I know that Mr. Larracy probably didn't tell us a lot either, but Mrs. Larracy told us that it did. He had his shoulder off, but he learned how to get onto the horse again by having the right-sized stump that he could stand on to get onto his horse. And he continued to work on the property the whole time until he was old enough to retire. So us people from the bush, we
See,
didn't
that works. When it works, it works.
we didn't mess around just because you had an arm leg off or something. There was one bloke at the meatworks and he had his arm off from about here, so he had nail bite.
Oh, yeah.
But he just had enough there so that he could hold you rolling
Rolling a cigarette.
cigarette, so that in between breaths he could just pop it in there and hold it, just like that. And he didn't burn himself.
It's very impressive what people can do.
Whereas Mr. Larracy, first got his arm off. I remember once he came and had a cup of tea at our and he he's having a cup of tea and then he went to pick up a biscuit and he put his head and he gave the cup of tea that he had in this hand over to this hand over there, and of course the cup fell on the floor and the tea was wet. He could feel his hand there. The rest of us didn't realise what he was going to do because we couldn't see the hand.
Yeah,
When
right.
he gave it to himself, of course, it landed on the floor. I don't know, weird things can happen. I only saw that happen once, but I did see it happen. Well, I thought, God, Peter Larracy didn't usually go around dropping this.
And hold.
He was very embarrassed though because he honestly thought he'd given it to his other hand.
Hold. That's funny.
I just finished reading I Can Jump Puddles about Alan Marshall's first book. I went and ordered the next two from the library. I'm sure that I read it as a kid, but I mean, I suppose there was enough swearing in it so that Mum let us read it. Maybe she insisted on reading it to us. So I think I read it. I know she knew whenever we had Australian books that came out.
Relax. That's it. Hold.
So all of the Australian stories by I.N.L. Idris and Bernard O'Reilly and all these things.
Oh, yeah.
Because Mum always bought the stories written by Australians, we all grew up knowing all of this. So some of the stuff that I might have thought that I learned at school may well have been just from the books that Mum favoured to buy.
Yeah, nice. And if they were written by the actual person involved, they might have had some actual truth involved in them.
Well, I certainly read all of the Lassiter's last rides, and they were certainly written by I.M.L. Idrius, but because they'd found so many of his camps and so many of his writings, all of the letters that might have been eaten by or stained and they couldn't tell, but they actually put them there with the spaces where the stuff was missing or smudged or whatever.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like Dad's, my great-grandfather's diaries, where you had to do the translation. They actually also did a translation, not just the chook scratch. And I suppose we did the same with Burke and Wills, whatever we found of them too.
Yeah, right.
Because Mum just had this big library of Australian books. I mean, obviously we've got them one at a time because we weren't rich, I guess.
Well, they would have come out one at a time too.
Yes. We also had lots and lots of books about maybe Reader's Digest books or something, but Australian.
Theme or something.
Yeah. Places, holiday places, just like Jimmy went off and found a hell of a lot of the places that I got from Reader's Digest pictures about world, whatever. So you often the things you do, you don't know that you're going to influence people so much, do you?
Yeah.
I think it's funny though that Bernard O'Reilly, who I'd been reading about since I was little and had nothing to do with the Bloom little whatever. Now I'm in the poetry group with Relma O'Reilly, Bernard O'Reilly's only kid. And of course I've known her for a long time before, but better since she got to live in Bow Desert. And her husband and I both in the same poetry group. And they were married 60 years recently.
Okay, Chook.
Chook. Did any of that help the RSI in my left wrist?
Negatory. You didn't mention the RSI in
didn't.
your left wrist. So take your watch off.
It's not sore, it's liable to drop something.
Yeah, so we'll make sure the bones are in the right spot. Just say, I'll put that on the table. Actually, I'll do this one first. Hold your thumb and pinky together and hold. Yeah, not optimal. Relax. Oh crap, I offered to do this on Jay last night and then totally forgot. But we did have a glass of wine, so there is that.
He might have enjoyed that more anyway. So he hasn't got an end date, has he?
Oh, no. Might never happen. Hold together. And this one, and hold together. And this one, and hold together. Because they've already offered to train him in something really boring.
Like?
Oh, just something boring. He's a boy, he does computers. So something he's not interested in. Hold thumb and pinky together. Hold. No. And these two. And hold. No. Okay.
Did this one appear worse?
Yeah.
Anyway, I do most of
That one, only the pinky unlocked. This one, both the pinky and the ring finger unlocked.
Well, this one I don't do most of my carrying with because it's my crook shoulder.
Right.
So this one is more important.
Yeah. Yeah. So that brachioradialis, do you have something like Voltaren cream or pawpaw cream or?
Yes.
Yeah. So that muscle there at the front of the forearm, if you give that a rub, just.
With the Voltaren cream?
Yeah.
Okay.
obviously I'm not a fan of Voltaren, but hey, you know, at 76, do whatever you bloody like.
Yes.
But, you know, because if the
Well, I'm
muscle
not-
gets inflamed, then it swells, and then the nerve supply can't get down through the hand. So then the nerve supply isn't going to your fingers, so you don't have strength in there.
Right.
But basically it can make these bones sort of jolt in the wrong direction. So when I'm moving them, I'm moving them in the correct direction, which is why I'm doing that. That's basically moving the bones from that to that.
So will the Voltaren help this hip at all? Or my tummy or anything else?
If you used it on it,
Mm.
no, you don't want to use it on your tummy. No, I mean that seriously.
Well, I thought there might have been something I could use on my tummy that would help.
Well, even a heat pack.
Oh.
You know, because sometimes it's the build-up of, you know, of gas and everything in there. So getting that bloating, I assume.
Well, I suppose so.
Thumb to pinky and hold. Thumb to ring finger and hold. Yeah, that's better.
I think someone's knocking.
Hey. Hi, I'm Madonna. Just have a seat. I won't be long. Cool. I don't know whether he's my first one or my, well, he's obviously my first one, but I don't know whether it's Adam or Craig.
Right.
So I won't do anything until I, you know, get to the computer. As you do. Okay. So
I think
So yeah, so if you massage, you know, just a bit of Voltaren cream on the front of your forearm,
Mhm.
and you know, even the squeezy balls, stress balls,
Mhm.
you know, all those little marble balls that you know the balls you buy.
Yeah, I know. Yes, I've got a box of them. They might well, of course, Sterling or someone might, or Teddy or someone might well have been playing with them. They might.
So they might not be where they should be.
But I've probably got a dozen of them, maybe 18.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them are armchairs and wheelie bins and things, but they're all stress balls.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, that's it, guys.
Happy Christmas, mob.
Happy Christmas. Okay, take care. Bye.